So I've not done a video in a couple of days, and in that couple of days, the Leeds United attacker signing or selling situation has gotten increasingly complicated, so I figured it'd be a good time to do a video on it. I would like to note, you may have been able to tell from the title and the thumbnail, that there's a little bit of a rant coming up. Said rant is going to be, because there is a sleeping baby next to me, one of those sort of calmer sounding ones. It's like a teacher giving you a little bit of a bollocking. It's not very specifically Leeds United related, but it's very, very content creator related, and it's very, very sort of annoyed at a thing. But I'll get into that as we go. I'm going to start with the Leeds United news, so if after the Leeds United news you want to hop off, that's fine, but this is something that I think is very, very important and could be fairly significant going forwards for the content creation space. So, to begin with, a little bit of news around Jurgen Strand Larsen. So a little bit of me was considering on the day that we played against Fulham doing a little clickbaity thing where I was like, Jurgen Strand Larsen's agent was at the game because he's a Leeds United fan and has a season ticket. I decided not to do that because that would have been an incredibly silly thing to do. But there's a little bit of sort of progress on the Strand Larsen thing, and it's not necessarily in a good direction because Jean-Philippe Mateta of Crystal Palace is currently eyeing up a move to Serie A. There's rumours of Juventus having an interest. I've heard a little bit about Inter Milan potentially. He's always said that he wants to play in Italy at some point in time, and it's seeming like that point of time is roughly around now, which means that Palace are likely to be in the market to sign another forward. Yes, behind Mateta they've got Eddie Nketiah, but Nketiah's not really starting number 9 level right now in the Premier League, so they're going to have to try and find someone else. That does open up Crystal Palace as an option for Jurgen Strand Larsen to go to, assuming that they have a little bit of an interest. I won't see why they wouldn't. But this is a bit where I'm going to have a hot take, because I've got 3 bits of Leeds United related news to get through, but this is the one where I've got a hot take. And my hot take is right now, I personally believe that Leeds United are a better looking prospect for a footballer than Crystal Palace. And you might have a look at the league table and you might go, yeah, well, Crystal Palace are above Leeds in the league. That's true. However, there's a little bit more behind the scenesy detail that you need to pay attention to. Whilst Crystal Palace are ahead of Leeds, it's only 3 points, which is not a very significant gap. A 3 point gap over Leeds United is not brilliant, let's be honest. And then you add to the fact that in the last 5 games they've only gotten 2 draws. Let's have a little bit of a look beyond that. They have not won a game since they played against Shelbourne on the 11th of December, and they've not won a Premier League game before that. Well, until the game before that. So they're not winning the Premier League since the 7th of December, which is a hell of a lot of football matches. That puts them in a position of sliding down the table with Gay having already left, with Oliver Glasner saying, well, I'm also going to go, whether you finish the season with or without me, it doesn't matter. He's looking for a move right now. All of that right now screams quite loudly that Strand Larsen might not be looking at Crystal Palace as a viable destination because they're kind of falling apart. We're the ones that are good at falling apart. They're trying to take our shtick. However, at the moment, I'm happy to let them do that because if we are in for Strand Larsen, if Palace are in for Strand Larsen, this is the kind of differential that we need to really sort of separate us and them and decide whether or not we can actually do this sort of permanently. Then you get onto the other bit of news. Strand Larsen, 40 million quid. Everyone's looking at that and going, well, that's not financially viable. This is where you get to the next bit of news, which is the Joel Piroe stuff. Because as you may have probably heard, there is quite a significant amount of interest in Joel Piroe. Joel Piroe has had interest from the EFL. He's had interest from PSV, which I've heard mentioned, which is a pretty big one. It'd be a case of going back to the Netherlands, which would be absolutely lovely for him. It'd be a case of just sort of being able to play top level football rather than ending up in the EFL, playing European football fairly consistently because PSV are quite good at getting into European football. And then you've got the Celtic conversation, which apparently Celtic inquired about signing Joel Piroe and we just laughed them out of the door, which is absolutely wonderful, especially sort of co-owners of Rangers. I've always kind of preferred Rangers because Ali McCoist, he did, I've forgotten the name of the TV show when I was younger, but the one where it was like Masters Football, that one. But that's sort of by the by. For me, I cannot see Joel Piroe staying at Leeds United beyond the summer. Whether or not he's here in February, I don't know. I don't particularly care. I don't see him getting too many minutes. But if we're going to make any significant financial moves before the 31st, 31st, 30th of June. There's not 31 days in June, I don't think. Then we're going to need someone like a Joel Piroe to go out the door, and he's, let's be honest, and this is a fairly harsh way of putting it, but he's expendable right now. He's not getting minutes, he's not playing a significant role in the squad, so that makes him replaceable. And whilst he is replaceable, it might be a good idea to replace him and make a move for someone who is likely to play a little bit more football. Look at Jurgen Strand-Larsen as an example. If we're playing two players up top, with occasionally Mecha, occasionally Okafor, Okafor's a winger. Mecha sometimes plays as a winger. Piroe is the only sort of out-and-out 9 of those three options, so he should be alongside Calvert-Lewin with no problem. But it doesn't work because that's not what he is. His profile doesn't fit the role that we need it to at the moment. Hello, Iris. So him moving on sort of makes a little bit of sense. But in the event that we cannot sign Jurgen Strand-Larsen, you'd think, well, maybe we might look to someone else, which is why a little bit of conversation has come up specifically surrounding Patrick Adjeman. Currently playing at Derby. He's managed to score 7 goals in 24 matches. He's a 25-year-old, he's American, so that doesn't particularly mean anything. Hello, you might hear the cat now meowing and screaming at me. I promise I'm trying to pet her to keep her quiet, but we'll find out how that one goes. But the issue with that one is Derby value him at £20 million, which I'd call a fairly chunky sum of money for a player that isn't especially proven. At Charlotte, before he went to Derby, he scored something like 24 goals in 70-something matches, which is a reasonable return, but that's in the MLS. And this season, he's also played down the left a hell of a lot, which means that he's not even strictly a number 9. So if you want someone that is a number 9 that plays on the wing a lot of the time, hello, we already own Noah Okafor for less than Derby's asking price of £20 million, which is vastly too much. In addition to that, Palace have been linked with him, so for me this looks like an agent on his end going, oh, my client's doing quite well in the Championship. How about we try and find him a move in the Premier League? Who wants a striker? And you just start putting out some stories. Maybe he does end up at Palace. I don't see him ending up at Leeds because, and the way that I phrase this in my notes feels a little harsh, but it's also pretty accurate. If we wanted a decent Championship striker without Premier League experience, we already have one. We've got Joel Piroe. I don't see why we would sell Joel Piroe for, I don't know, £12, £15 million to buy Patrick Adjeman for £20 million when that is, in my opinion, a step backwards. We don't gain anything by doing that. For me, there is zero chance that this move gets done, zero chance that even if it, in a hypothetical world where it did, he shows £20 million of value, none of that is going to happen. Which is daft and silly, and it feels like agent talk, but it's one that I had to sort of have a little bit of discussion about because people seem to be talking about it, and it seems to be a whole pile of nothing that isn't worthy of our time beyond this. Now to the fun part, and this is a fun part that is a distinctly unfun part in my opinion, because one of the best resources in the world of football has been sort of maliciously killed. And this is the part where it gets a little bit ranty and it gets a little bit like soul of football, but you just stick with me for a moment. A lot of you will have seen me using this website in the past, if I can find it. There we go. This being Fbref, a website that is known for being a little bit too big right now. There we go. A website that is well known for being really, really good at providing stats and data. Have a look at all this stuff. You have goals, assists, goals and assists, all this kind of stuff. You want to know what you've not got right now? You've not got your expected goals. You've not got your shot creating actions. You've not got your chances created. You've not got your advanced goalkeeping stats, so XGOT, that kind of stuff. Which you'd think, oh, that's weird. Why would they remove that? It's a very, very fun thing to have. It gives a little bit more context, all that kind of stuff. Well, they've not got it because of irritating reasons that I'm going to have to dive into. Essentially, Opta, Stats Perform, whatever you prefer to call them, because there's a few different sort of names for them at the minute, have decided to kill them. They've decided that they will no longer provide data to Fbref. And the reasoning for it is a little bit weird, and it's mentioned in this quite good thread by the Pitchside Pub that I'm going to take you through. Because Stats Perform, Opta are taking the heat, but FIFA are equally to blame, which is a completely fair way of looking at it. On January the 12th, they named Opta the exclusive betting data distributor. Effectively, when it comes to FIFA events and all FIFA stuff, Opta are the ones that get to have all the information and provide it to whoever they fancy, particularly betting companies. 8 days after that, our wonderful, wonderful Fbref, which was a free resource that provided a hell of a lot of information, was told to scrub all of the advanced stats, which is why, if you have a look right now at Leeds United's Fbref page for this season, there is no data for XG, there is no data for expected assists, there's nothing for chances created, there aren't even detailed passing stats at this point. All of it is just gone, burned, knacked. But when you look a little bit deeper, it's all a case of FIFA trying to get rid of free things to make it possible to sell more gambling products and all this kind of stuff. It's the similar thing that happened with EA Sports, as is noted here. Read through this full sort of thread if you have any interest in sort of the behind-the-scenes-y details and all that kind of stuff of it. But it's just another case of the world of football becoming a little bit more nasty, purely because someone sees an opportunity for a quick buck. This genuinely, I'm going to try and find the other notes that I did for this video because I decided to throw these away for some reason, specifically the Fbref stuff. It's a complete, like, removal of democratization from the sport, because the entire point of football to begin with is that this is the people's game. It's the thing that you can just have a ball, not even like a pumped up one, you can just have like one of the weird spongy crap ones, or you can have just a jumper that you've tied into a nice little ball. Put 2 more jumpers down, you've got a net. Perfect. It's the people's game, you don't need anything to play it. Fantastic. Ultimately the most democratic sport in the world. And it's another way of just taking those little bits and bobs away from people that are trying to improve things. My next note is just, this is a killer for anyone that wants to analyse football at home, or is an upcoming journalist, or an upcoming analyst, or an upcoming scout, or anything like that. It is the death of one of the most important resources to that sort of indie analytical zone, purely because FIFA think that they can make betting companies pay a little bit more if the data only now comes from Opta directly. Like, what are we doing here? And in addition to that, it severely damages a lot of mainline journalists as well, because what it does is it takes their information away from them. The amount of times that I've seen The Athletic or a Graham Smith or someone along those lines using Fbref information as a means of going, okay, this is what the data says, how does it match up? It's impossible to check out new signings now, unless you go to other sort of sources. I've seen a lot of people be like, why don't you just get Wisecout? Because Wisecout's fucking expensive. And all of this has happened purely so FIFA can go, we're going to further corporatize things. We're going to further focus on the financial side of everything. And we're going to make sure that football is as profitable as it can be for us, because that's what matters more about the beautiful game. Infantino has as many morals as he has hairs on his head. Like, the guy that sold a World Cup to, let's be honest, 2 slave states now, Qatar and then Saudi Arabia, very obviously isn't going to be the kindest of people when it comes to sort of the fan side of the game, but this is just another step that burns things completely needlessly. And I'm tired of it, to be honest. I'm speaking from someone that works on a broadcaster side. My job just got significantly harder because of the way that data access works. For my work, I was using Fbref a hell of a lot of the time because it is detailed and it is good, and it might not be live and to the minute like a lot of places are. But shit, it was excellent. And now, because something was too useful for the average person, gone. You can still use things like a SofaScore, for example, or I don't know if Who Scored is also working. In fact, let's have a look. Does SofaScore still have XG? It does. But it all adds up to this sort of innate disdain for the people that make the game matter, and that's fans, and that's people that invest a lot of passion into this sport. And I'm tired of it, to be honest. And that wasn't a fun final chunk of video, and I apologise for that. But it was a chunk of video that I think needed to be discussed. Because if my analysis over the coming sort of previews and all that kind of stuff gets worse, that's why. And the same will apply for a lot of other people if they were using Fbref as their source. Because Gianni Infantino wanted a bigger bonus at the end of this year. And he could sell it to more corporate bastards. But anyway, hope you enjoyed. If you did, pop a like on it, subscribe, become a channel member, because that doesn't line Gianni Infantino's pockets. That like 50% lines YouTube's, and then helps to pay for a baby. And yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you later. Toodaloo.